So I'm currently with Jebel Ali School, who joined iSAMS back in 2017. So you've been with us now for the past 5 years or so. I think your anniversary with iSAMS have only just passed, actually, I think back in November. So we're here to talk about your experiences with using iSAMS, especially being a school in the Middle East. It will be really interesting to get your point of view of which modules you're using, what works well, and how you found iSAMS generally. We've got Gill here on the call, who's the admissions manager, and we've also got Athira. So Gill, I understand your role has changed over the years, but you're still heavily involved in iSAMS. Do you want to give us a little bit of background about your roles, both of you, please?
Yeah, so I was originally recruited to join Jebel Ali School to implement iSAMS. So I've been the data manager right through from its inception, right through to its rollout and extensive use now across the school. Towards the end of the last academic year, I was asked to take on responsibility for the admissions team, and Athira was brought on board to take over the role of the data manager. So Athira has been with us just over 18 months now, and she's now taking on more and more responsibility for iSAMS as I take more of a backseat and a consultative role and support role for Athira. But yes, my primary responsibility these days is for the admissions team.
That's excellent. So you've lots of experience in iSAMS. You're sort of passing on that knowledge, which is quite nice.
Absolutely, yeah.
Excellent. So during this Q&A, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, sort of talking about your journey with iSAMS and what your experiences are working with certain modules and the services that we offer. So I guess the first obvious question is, why did you start looking for a new SIS? Why did you come to iSAMS to begin with?
So I guess I'm best placed to answer that out of the two of us. And in reality, the decision had been taken by the time even I'd been recruited. So we had an MIS in the school, but then it was primarily used by our admissions and the finance team. It was not a school MIS. It was just a system being used by our admissions team to manage the onboarding of new students, and heavily used by our finance team for invoicing, etc. That was very much a client-based application. So people had that application installed on their laptops or PCs. We had very few licenses, so it was a bit of a scrabble around to get access to the system. So the decision had already been taken, and the tender process had been completed, and iSAMS had been selected as the preferred supplier of a school MIS going forward. And that decision was taken towards the end of 2015, early 2016. So I joined the team in March 2017 and started working with Stuart in the team, and I can't actually remember the guy, Chris Smart or short. Yeah, and he was our installation manager. So I spoke quite a lot with him initially, trying to understand. My background is in the financial services sector. I'd never worked in a school before. So I was doing a combination of learning about a school and learning about a school management system. So the configuration was a little bit hard for me because I didn't really know what the school needed. And nobody in the school knew what they needed either. So it was very much a lot of the configuration that's been done to the system has been done based on my understanding of what I think the school needs, and it seems to have worked so far. So yeah, we implemented, we did the data migration, obviously, from our previous system to iSAMS, and we implemented on a kind of soft launch at the beginning of September. Initially started with the rollout of doing the online registers for the receptionists of students in the school, and obviously the admissions process and the finance. And at that stage, we migrated away from our legacy system and went with iSAMS and solutions for accounting. We implemented, so Sage was the finance package that we integrated, and the two systems were integrated together in order to have a new finance system and a new school MIS.
Excellent. So you mentioned there that obviously your background wasn't maybe ideal, like being jumped in at the deep end with a new management system. But how did you find that migration process, considering you weren't from that background? How did you find that?
Yeah, so my background was very much data. I'd
Yes.
worked in financial services in IT and very much around customer relationship management systems for the financial institution I worked for. So data modeling, all of that was very much in my background, hence why I'd been appointed, I think, to take over this role. So I found that really exciting, actually. First of all, understanding the data in our legacy MIS, and then iSAMS very kindly provided us with a number of standard spreadsheet templates, data migration templates, which we then populated. But obviously, in populating those, I then identified quite a lot of data quality issues with our existing MIS. So it was a real challenge, really, to clean up the data in our existing system in order to put it correctly into the migration templates to upload and start a new system with a clean system, you know, and with data quality as best we could get it at the time. So yeah, I found it exciting, challenging, but smooth and quite straightforward, and iSAMS were really supportive in that.
Oh, excellent. That's really nice to hear. Thank you. So obviously it's been 5 years or so since then. So I suppose it's a question for both of you now. So you're both heavily involved with iSAMS. So what is it you like most about iSAMS system?
I would say that every department in school can use the iSAMS more simply. Like it's like if we take the admissions, they can just go into the iSAMS, mark the students over there, then export the data. Even the teachers can do that. So it's like more user friendly and it's more flexible. So every person in the school is able to access the iSAMS, like the data and the configuration is simple there. So it's more friendly, user friendly for them. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's excellent. So in terms of that user friendliness into it, so I suppose before it was just sort of a small pocket of people using your MIS, but now it's sort of accessible for everyone to use and sort of collaborate and get information and put data in to make your lives easier. Is that right?
Yes.
I think the other thing that is brilliant about iSAMS is that it's cloud-based.
Cloud-based, yes.
So it's accessible from anywhere. As I said, our legacy system was client-based, so you had to be in the school on that desktop in order to access the system. And hugely throughout COVID, the school would not have survived without us being able to access iSAMS remotely from wherever we were in the world, and being able to continue to operate as a school with the support of the system there to aid that process.
Excellent, good stuff. And I suppose it'd be really useful for any schools watching this video to get an idea of drill down a bit more into sort of which modules does your school use most often and why?
Yeah, I guess, ultimately pupil manager, student manager terminology slightly different in each school, but that's the core and that's the master of our student role. We also use the admissions manager and the admissions portal, and all of our, and that was implemented during COVID because our admissions process was very paper-based prior to COVID. And we took on board the admissions portal, and we've now got all of our online application forms. So all of our process and the onus for data quality then went back to the parents rather than somebody trying to interpret handwriting on a paper form. So that improved the quality of the data that we had in the system. We heavily use the report cycles, assessment cycles.
And we are now using the student registers, which is excellent. Excellent module, because we were using learning support module. Now the teachers can themselves create their registers in the student register module. So we use it for SEND, EML, EMA, ELL,
so obviously being a school in the Middle East, ELL is a big problem for us, and we didn't have anywhere to be able to have an ELL register. So the student registers module, we've got the enterprise version where we can create our own student registers. And that's gone down really, really well with our inclusion team. So we've got, gifted and talented, ELL, SEN register, and the doors are open now for us to open as many registers as we need to and configure them accordingly.
That's wonderful. I mean, that is a relatively new feature, that module, isn't it? To be able to create your own registers, and it is so powerful because you can create any registers you want, but also it can be available throughout the system. It doesn't have to be just contained within student registers. It can pop up in other registers, in other modules, and other members of staff can manage it from the modules they're familiar with, which is very nice. So that's really good to hear that that has worked for you so well. You mentioned integration there regarding obviously raising well-being concerns. So that leads on quite nicely to another question I've got for you actually is, you've mentioned a few integrations already. Are there any other integrations that you link with third-party systems to your iSAMS system, and how do you find the integrations? Do they work well for you?
Yeah, so we've got some direct integrations with a co-curriculum. SOCS is our co-curricular provider. We use them. We use CPONs for our safeguarding, and we use Salamander. They are a third-party provider of Google Suite and Apple School Manager. So all of our student email accounts are created overnight through Salamander. So those are direct integrations we have, but we also have a third-party integration system with Wand. And so we integrate with Wand, a third-party integrator, and they then pass the data on, subject to our approval, to a number of other 4 or 5 third parties that we've got pulling data directly from Wand. Our library system, Go for Schools, another tracking system. So lots of integrations.
Thank you for that answer. That's a really good answer. They're very comprehensive. I believe you're using the parent portal and the iParent app. Is that correct? So I suppose it would be nice to get an understanding of how your parents find the mobile apps, and are there any particular features that they like using?
Okay, so we introduced the parent portal primarily as a cost-saving exercise for the school, because historically we'd printed school reports, and when you can imagine you've got over 1,000, I mean we're up to about 1,600 students now, but over 1,000 students and a 8 to 10 page colour printed school report to be printed and issued to every student at the end of the academic year was a big cost to the school, and we actually weighed up the cost of the parent portal and the mobile app was considerably less than the printing costs for school reports. And we're now at the stage of having school reports every term for every student in the school. So yes, we've very much implemented the parent portal to be able to publish our school reports and assessments. However, obviously it's got way more functionality than that, and we do use it. All of our reward and conducts, our house points, our behaviour notifications are all alerted to parents through the parent portal and through the app. Timetables, teaching sets, it gives a lot of information to parents about their children's activities within the school.
And we can publish CAT4 reports, learner profiles.
So we actually publish a lot of student detailed reports. The one difficulty that we find with the email communication through Pupil Manager is you can send a personalised email, but you can't send a personalised attachment. When you're sending an email to 100 students and you want their CAT4 report attaching, you can't do that. So we found a way around that by publishing them directly on the parent portal.
Yes.
We are investigating. We don't currently, but I would really like to, and I think there's more appetite for it now. We're using it too much as a communication tool, but I know the appetite is there now to start publishing things like our weekly briefing from the principal, news articles, bulletins. So we don't use it for that purpose at the moment, but that is definitely something we're looking at rolling out further, because whilst we've got the app and we've got the parents engaged, why not provide more information to them directly rather than them having to receive everything via email, which is what happens at the moment.
Absolutely. And, it's never ever one size fits all for a school. There can be multiple uses for things like the parent portal, and each school would approach those differently. So for you, it was the generation of those reports, which not only saved you money, but it's greener as well, isn't it? So you're saving paper, which is lovely. And then obviously from that, you found that there were additional features that. But
it also gives the parent an access. My children have been in this school for 6 years now, and I've got 6 years worth of reports. On my mobile app. I don't have to go running around and filing in filing cabinets old copies of school reports, because at any point I can just download it from the app or from the parent portal, and I have it at a touch. So,
and in this digital age, that's what parents expect now, isn't it? Even from the schools for their children, they want everything digitally on their fingertips via an app, don't they, with alerts and notifications coming up.
Yeah.
Email is slowly dying. They want it all in an app, don't they?
Push notifications all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. That's brilliant. So we're coming towards the end of the Q&A now. So one of the final questions is sort of to help summarize. So what is your overall experience of iSAMS in terms of support, training, and our iSAMS community? Would you like to say something about that?
Yeah, so we had a lot of support at the outset, implementing iSAMS initially, and the support desk, I think at that time when we implemented, weren't even round the clock. You know, they were pretty much UK time-based support. I know that that's enhanced over the years, which has been really great, because, you know, for a school that used to have a working week of Sunday to Thursday, to have a problem on Sunday and know that you couldn't get hold of anybody was a little frustrating. Yeah. That's not the case anymore. Yeah. So yeah, we don't call on the support desk a lot, but when we do, they are generally fairly responsive. It's only when there's a more technical query or whether there's more investigation needs to be done that it can take a little while to respond. Yeah. Training, we had an intensive week of training at the beginning, which was really helpful, set up a lot of the configuration for us. And we have had iSAMS come over, and I've even hosted a number of training courses in our school when they come over for the user forums and the guests, you know, the events that they come to the Middle East for. We've hosted a number of training courses. So I've held here the exams manager training, the SSRS training, yes, which was really, really useful. Yes. So yeah, the training has been really great. And the community, we have a local community in the Middle East that we correspond on a regular basis. So the user forums are great for us to be able to get together and to network and to build those relationships. But we've continued with those relationships locally and call on our resources regularly when issues arise, or when when we've got a question. When we were implementing the student registers, I certainly reached out to our user body and said, are you using it? How do you configure it? Please help us. And it was really great, the response we got. So yeah, the community is great, the training is great, and the support is there. Yeah.
That sounds excellent. Thank you so much. And I suppose, well, the very last question, probably the most important one for people watching this video, would you recommend iSAMS?
100%.
100%.
People often call me a sticker rock with iSAMS down the middle. I love it, and I sell it internally as well. I try and promote the use of more modules. I'm very keen to get started with the iTeacher app and the student portal. It's just a cost issue, so we're just working that through at the moment. But yeah, I'm continually looking for ways of extending our use of the system, because I think it's great.
That's excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time, both of you. It's very much appreciated. And yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
Pleasure. Bye.